Ron. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing today?
Very good. Sorry for the little wait there, mate.
Oh,
How's
no
your...
worries, no worries.
It's Friday night there for you, isn't it? How's your week been?
Oh, I mean, pretty amazing. I got a new job this week, so it's been amazing. A significant change to my life.
Awesome. Hey, that's great. Great news, man.
All right. So, should I keep on with this call on join the in-game thing?
Yeah, so to join a channel in-game, it's just /join space pig in your chat. So don't go into the groups menu. You just need to click in chat down the bottom of wherever you are in Battle.net. And you just need to type /join space pig. And it'll pop you into a channel and you'll see a couple people sitting there, including me.
Oh yeah, I can see. All right. I mean,
Beautiful. I see you as well. You need to either change your social settings. Yeah, you need to turn your social settings off just whenever we do coaching, sorry. Because I try not to add people to my friends list because the in-game friends list has a lot of issues. So
so
you just need to, I think that's like social, allow friends to, only allow friends to send me invites under privacy. You just need to fix that one up.
I've got these sticks on, so shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, I've got this on.
Yeah, so you'll need to tell me when you've turned those off, those settings off, and we should be good.
Alright, everything is good and ready.
Okay, cool. What microphone are you using, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
I've got my actually I think it's a built-in camera mic, so it's not that good. It's not that good as far as I know.
Okay, so it's just the webcam, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Is it possible to bring it a little bit closer to your mouth by any chance, or?
Yeah, of course, like this.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. So if you can, yeah, that is a little bit clearer. Awesome. Because webcam mics are notoriously bad. It's really funny. Sometimes streamers have a thing where we go live after a Windows update and it messes up all our sound settings. So our recording software has gone and defaulted to like the webcam mic. And you don't realize because you never hear your own audio when you're streaming. You just see the bars going up and down. And then like I've had it happen to me, and I saw one of my friends it happened to the other day. They're like, I'm streaming 6 hours with my webcam mic and nobody like let me know. Like eventually someone was like, the audio sounds a little bit different today. And he like opened up his own stream and was like, oh my God, the audio is terrible. Like, how did no one complain about this? It was really funny. You've got someone there with like a $600 microphone or something, and they're using their $6 webcam mic instead. But
that happens. Yeah. I was looking for one actually for my other mic, but I just couldn't find it.
No worries. I mean, it'll be totally fine for today for coaching and stuff. Should be cool. So I'm just gonna turn this in-game music down a little bit. It's getting real loud. But awesome. So we are gonna be doing some coaching. I am gonna go straight into this replay. So we have some eye candy on screen, and I can also kind of process in the background. But I'm mostly gonna be looking at your Google document for now and planning things out. Right? A lot of planning. A lot of hey, what's the game plan? Once we understand our intentions, what we want to do, what our game plan is supposed to be, then we can kind of pay more attention to the replay. So for now, I'll just lock it on your camera in the replay and leave it be. And there is a few important changes and a few not as important changes that I wrote down there. So you read through all those changes I wrote. Did you get time to go through the rapid fire change, or are you going to do that later?
I think I'm going to do that later.
No worries. We don't want to do it now then. I just thought you might have had time to quickly do it. Super easy change, right? You're just going to add like, Adepts and Stalkers and High Templar to your rapid fire key, so you can, when you're floating 3,000 gas in late game, you can warp in 10 Archons all at once, right? Which is always nice.
Actually, the other thing that I've got on my rapid fire is like abilities. So like storm and force field and everything is on my rapid fire for some reason.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, because you're a grid player, there's probably going to be a lot of overlap on that. I don't know exactly, if you don't want it to be on rapid fire or not.
I mean, I'm to be honest. I'm still using like force field and rapid fire force field when I'm doing all of the all-ins and stuff. So that's very useful for this.
Using rapid fire what, sorry? Force field?
Force field, yeah.
Okay, I actually think you should not use rapid fire force field at all. Yeah, if you speak to pros about it, they'll say it's a really bad idea because it's very hard to actually do a line of them evenly. I think I was tweeting Drogo and Showtime and a few others about this a few months ago, and they were like, nah, never rapid fire your force fields. They were like, always just kind of like click them down real quick. So because it goes down so fast, you'll have a lot of overlapping ones. But that also brings us to another question, because you didn't actually answer all of the mechanical questions I'd emailed you. So there was a few other little things we need to check real quick. So let's go in-game options and go to your mouse and keyboard settings.
Yes, I've got this on.
So what's your mouse sensitivity at in-game?
95.
95, okay, wow, very high. Okay, no worries. And then if we go down to mouse scroll speed under scrolling, what's that at?
I've got this enabled.
Yeah, but below that, mouse scroll speed, what is the first bar up to there?
It's 28.
28, okay, that's super low. You want that to be at a minimum of 50%. Minimum.
Alright,
this by default is at 20%, but we want that to be at 50%. Most pros play with 100%. I play with 90%. And that's very important because otherwise your ability to control units is going to suck. When you have to scroll across screens, whenever there's a big battle, you're not going to be able to do it very well. This is one of the big problems which I hate with the default settings. They put it on 20%, so complete newbies can kind of scroll around. But some people, even when they progress so much like you have, they know, you never change it because you're used to that and you don't even realize. But mouse scroll speed is so huge. So I want you to jump that to 50% for now. And I'd like you to consider changing that even more in future. So, I didn't even realize we'd be coming across this.
I'll keep that in mind.
So mouse scroll speed is up to 50%. Consider going even higher. To 80% or so. So that's going to take a few days to get used to, but that's okay. We'll get used to it. You'd be surprised how quick you can adapt to that. Okay, you've got your Windows key turned off, I would imagine. Not that that's an issue. If you go to gameplay, if you go to your gameplay menu, tell me what's not ticked on in the user interface boxes. Which ones don't have a check mark in them?
Enable symbol command card is not ticked on.
No worries.
And all of the others are ticked on.
Okay. Yeah, if you played Zerg, we'd turn off select all other. Show alerts, I think, is completely useless. Do you use those alerts on the left-hand side of your screen? What do you reckon? Because I feel like it just wastes space and is a distraction more than anything.
I reckon I don't use it at all.
Yeah, let's turn show alerts off then, and let's just give that a go. I like that you've got experience points on. That's always really nice. See how many kills you get. Okay, and on the right-hand side, what are those three?
I've got my Unif life bars as always, set up to always. And the control group to normal.
Okay, we don't really want to be clicking on those control groups ever. So I would make that unclickable.
Unclickable, fair enough.
So you can still see what's on each control group at the bottom, but you can't, if you accidentally click on it, it won't do anything. Because that occasionally happens in a big fight. You're doing lots of stuff, you click on that and you're like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? It's really confusing, right? Show flyer helper, is that always?
Selected. Yeah, selected.
Put it on always. Because whenever you're looking at like storming a pack of void rays or just kind of figuring out exactly where some mutas are and stuff, that's nice. I'm not sure how important it is because I'm thinking about it like from your perspective, you don't need to land fungals or corrosive biles. It's mostly Zerg that the flyer helper matters, but it's still nice to have that on. So let's accept those changes. Okay, that should be the most important ones in game. Did you... So we can now tab out a game. And we need to go into your Windows settings real quickly, okay? So we're gonna go, are you on Windows 10?
Yes, on Windows 10.
Okay, so in your search bar in the bottom left, search mouse. And we want to find a mouse properties menu.
I've got this on.
Awesome. And a keyboard properties as well. If you just want to double check both of them real quickly.
It's gonna be typing settings or something similar.
Just keyboard should come up, but otherwise go to control panel. If you go to control panel, you can search in control panel. And then it'll definitely come up if you search it within control panel. For me, I think it's showing up because I open this menu so often, so Windows is like, oh.
I've got my keyboard, yeah.
All right, so keyboard properties, you're on the speed tab, yeah?
Yep.
And are they both on the far right-hand side? Shortest possible, fastest possible?
Yes, on the right side.
Fantastic, very good. And on the mouse tab, we need to be on pointer options.
Okay, let me just tab out of it. Okay, I'm on it, yes.
And is the pointer speed, is that in the middle of the bar? 6 out of 11 bars?
It's almost full.
Oh, it's almost full as well. Wow, you use insane sensitivity. Wow. What about the box below that? Enhanced pointer precision.
That's turned off. I don't use it at all. It's just...
That's very good.
With my workflow, yeah.
Okay, so what's interesting here is you are using 95% in-game and almost max Windows. What mouse are you using? I'm very curious.
That's like a Modicom, like a general one. It's not a gaming mouse or anything.
Okay. So mouse is that, and we're using it just a generic mouse. It's a laser mouse, of course, right? It's not like an old ball mouse from my... Good. Okay, so we're using a generic kind of no-brand mouse. So does it have DPI buttons on it or anything like that?
Doesn't.
Okay. I would make a recommendation. I hate to be the guy who's like, you should buy things, because obviously I know it's more what you do, but I would recommend you look for one of the cheaper gaming mice, just generally so you can know what DPI setting you've got on it. And I would also recommend that you do you ever have any wrist issues, or do you ever get sore hands at all when you play?
Not very often, to be honest. I used to work at the computer desk like literally every single day, so I pretty much got used to it.
Okay, so these are just recommendations, and these aren't things we have to do, but potentially get a gaming mouse. And I think more importantly, we might want to try much lower sensitivity.
Okay.
I want you to do a quick little exercise with me on your desktop, or we can go in-game actually. In-game is fine. So return to game. You're still in the replay, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so just tell me, start with your mouse in the very top right corner of your screen, and then move it down to the very bottom left corner. And I want you to measure how far that takes you on your mouse pad to move. Roughly. Is it like a centimeter, an inch, 5 inches? Do you barely have to move the mouse?
I barely am moving a mouse, barely.
Yeah.
Like almost none at all.
Yeah.
Not at all, literally.
So for me, I'm going to measure mine. I have to move my mouse about 2 and a bit inches to get from corner to corner. And yours is probably what, like 1 centimeter, or not even that?
Not even that, yeah.
Not even 1 centimeter. Yes. Yep.
It's very sensible. It's very sensible.
Okay, so that's something where we probably want to try that at some point. I'm not going to get you to do it today, but I want to bring this to your attention because the two biggest things we see, or the couple of biggest things that we see, okay, is so with super high sensitivity, we see far more injuries in terms of just hand injuries because people are trying to very quickly control very fast actions. Sensitivity, we see more injuries due to, you know, the stress of having to keep your hand muscles so tensed in order to control such small motions. With bigger motions, you use your whole forearm. Forearm, larger muscles, smoother movements, right? It's less trying to control this tiny little movement, okay? Now, the more important thing in terms of gameplay, since you've said that's not an issue for you yet, maybe it'll come up later, maybe not, we'll have to see, is going to be control, right? Control, consistency, and misclicks, right? So slower movement speed means it takes more movement and therefore is slightly slower to achieve some actions, right? So with your really high sensitivity, you can get your actions up way quicker sometimes when it lands. I used to use much higher sensitivity and sometimes I could pull off some of the most godlike quick, like splits or micro. Problem was, it was really inconsistent, okay? It's way more consistent. And in a game like Starcraft, where you're constantly shuffling your priorities, right? You're trying to say, oh, this is the most important. Wait, I got to deal with that. Let's shuffle that down. Put this other thing on top of it. You've got like a stack of orders you've got to kind of clear, right? And you never clear the list of things that you need to do. Starcraft's a game where there's a constant backlog of shit you need to get done, right? So basically, having consistency is really nice because it allows you to smoothly reorder that. What you'll find is a lot of repeated clicks. So, but it's way more consistent with slower speed, right? So if you are panicky, adrenaline, or even when calm, you'll have to repeat actions and clicks sometimes many times, and it makes it harder to develop the same calm muscle memory responses, okay? So these are the two concerns I have with that, and I'm going to leave it to you to keep an eye on that and to investigate further on your own, right? Because it's a big mechanical change if you choose to change your mouse, if you choose to change your sensitivity, but I want you to just pay a bit of attention to those things and say, oh, actually, I misclick all the time. You know what? I think maybe I should do it because, or you could say, you know what? I'm actually really comfortable with this. I don't think I misclick that much. I'm going to keep playing the same way I do. So I'm going to leave that to you. Obviously, you're going to be able to have enough time watching your own play and experiencing it. So we can just kind of let you decide over time. But this way, at least I've just made sure you're aware of it. You start getting sore hands or anything like that, keep an eye on this, okay?
I will do so, definitely.
Awesome, man. So mechanically, that's really important that we go over this stuff in our first session. What about control group stealing? Do you use control group stealing at all? I imagine not, because you don't use a lot of control groups, right?
I do not. I've got one control group for my army, and that's it most of the time. As I was like saying in the message I actually sent you, most of the games I'm actually going for are All-Ins or Kanawashis.
Most of your games are what, sorry?
All-Ins or Kanawashis, or basically
yep.
fast games where my army is not that big, so I do not really have to control any spellcaster or anything. That would be actually much more difficult to control.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. In terms of control group stealing, it's a great mechanic, and you can actually just override your regular control group so that you don't have to learn anything new for it. And that way you're already using it when you start learning to use more control groups. If you take a look at your document, have you got 2 monitors, by the way, or just 1?
I've got actually my laptop open.
Okay.
So I can look at it meanwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just in your document, we've just already written down a ton of notes. You can see just down here where I'm highlighting. You see where I've got selected. Just a link there. Awesome. So you can watch that later, and you can basically make the changes that I coach a student on in that one, and it won't change anything in how you play. So it should be really easy because it's same buttons, nothing changes for you. Really easy way to learn it. But it means when you start using more control groups, you'll be able to use stealing. Against Terran, a lot of Protoss players, really fine versus Zerg, they're okay versus Protoss, and they're diverse Terran. And the pattern that I normally see is a lot of mechanical inefficiencies. And it's the Terrans because they're the ones who are multi-prong harassing, libs, Widowmine drops, bio drops, hitting 3 locations at once. These are the players where at pro level, I remember it was in Heart of the Swarm, we saw a lot of players who weren't using camera location keys start to fall behind the pack. They couldn't keep up because they just weren't using camera location, so they couldn't bounce between their bases as well to defend multiple areas, right? So if the Terran just kept poking in and out with drops from multiple angles, eventually they'd find an opening and the Protoss would just not be able to keep up with the micro in 2 places at once. And it all came back to the camera location use. Since then, in Legacy, we've seen players who don't use control group stealing and don't split their units onto enough control groups who really struggle with that same scenario. So it's kind of cool to see like, oh, okay, this is the matchup where because Terrans are so harassment focused, we get punished really hard if we don't have clean mechanics. That being said, we don't need every perfect mechanic, but 1 or 2 key things will be really nice. So in terms of control groups, let's talk about those really quickly. I wrote down some suggestions there. I was like, okay, preferably we have a whole bunch more. If we can have like a Warp Prism and an Oracle key and a Spellcaster key and a Drop Defense key, that's amazing. But right now you're just using 1 army key. So let's start simple and let's try to open up 2 more control groups for you. 1 for Drop Defense, 1 for Spellcasters. So that you can use like Disruptors or Storm on a different key. And then, oh, there's a big drop I see coming with an Observer. I can warp in 8 Stalkers and put them on my Drop Defense key and be ready to stop that. Did you read the notes? Was there any keys you had in mind that you preferred to use?
I return to serve.
Actually, I'd like to use 2 and 3 and 4 and have all of my other buildings and structures on 6 or maybe even 7. Not using them very often, to be honest. So.
It is something you do need to use quite a bit though. 6 and 7 is pretty far down the keyboard. I don't mind 6, but 7 is a bit of a reach. So I mean, I did write in the document we can use things like tilde, which is right next to 1 and is a really easy key. Are you using that for something? The key to the left of 1?
For select all army.
That's okay. Yeah, that's just select all army.
I should definitely unbind it. Yeah, I know. I should definitely unbind it.
Probably, yeah. We could work on that, definitely. I mean, I think, yeah, select all army in general is a really great, useful key that unfortunately most of us are humans, so we use as a crutch, right? we immediately use it in the worst possible way. So that's fine. We can leave that for now. So you're kind of thinking, okay, let's go 1. 1 is already main army. Let's add 2 and 3 as keys. Oh, actually, sorry. Do you use 1 for Nexus, right?
Yes, 1 for Nexus.
Okay. So 2, 3, 4 for army, and then it would be 5 for Robos, 6 for Stargates. How does that sound? Did I forget something?
5 for Robo and Stargate on just 1 key, and I can tab out.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, that would be awesome. I think that would be great. Okay, cool. Let's write this out here. So we want 1 Nexus, 2 to 4 army keys, 5 Robo plus Stargate, and you're using the warp gates only on a default key. I noticed you don't control group your gateways before they transform, which is a bit awkward if you're doing proxy gates or when you're defending like a Terran who's doing a cheese and you've delayed warp gate. But it's a pretty niche situation, so I'm not going to say anything about it. I think it's fine for now. Out of curiosity, with grid, what do they put that on? What are the warp gate hotkey? What does the warp gates go on automatically?
Don't worry, but I rebinded it to caps lock.
Oh, caps lock. Okay, I like that, dude. That's awesome. I love it when someone's using caps lock. People don't use that. Most StarCraft players never use caps lock. That's great. Caps lock, tilde for F2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just kind of looking at the keyboard, pressing the buttons myself, and I'm just kind of imagining where your hand is. And yeah, I think this is a pretty good setup. What do you reckon?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
That's a good illustrate.
Yeah. Okay, so let's define exactly what each thing does. So it's easy for me to say 2 to 4 army keys, and I know what that means. But for you, it might be a bit different, right? Spellcaster on number 3, right? So that's your spellcaster key. But in the early game, if you've just got basic units, it might just be a warp prism, right? It's basically, it's your secondary army key, which is usually a warp prism in the early stages, but it could be spellcasters later, disruptors and that sort of stuff, right? And then number 4 is going to be your drop defense squad, right? Drop defense squad. And you can adjust this so this makes sense to you. You might be like, nah, I actually prefer it this way. It just makes more sense to me. You've got to make these control groups your own. So whatever makes the most sense to you.
All right.
But you can see where I'm typing, yeah? That little list in your document.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Yep, looks okay.
My army, spellcaster, dual squad, and building facilities.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. And fantastic. All right, let's do it. Okay, so we've talked through a few mechanical changes. The main one is going to be, let's try and give ourselves more control groups. Let's be ambitious with that. And that can start just with always control grouping our prism on number 3, right? With most of your styles, you're not going up to spellcasters that much. It's just going to be, hey, let's get used to that prism on number 3. And if we warp in a bunch of stalkers to defend a lib we see coming across the map or something, we're going to put those on number 4 and try to remember, leave that number 4 at your, the edge of your base ready to stop the drop, okay?
All right.
Sounds good, man. There's a lot of mechanical change. I didn't think we'd have this many, but this will make a lot of difference to your play. So let's try and get into the actual matchup stuff now. Let's talk about your build. You said you don't really have much of a build order for this matchup. PvT, it's a little bit all over the place. You've never made Blink and you're second guessing yourself on that. You're thinking maybe you should be. So is there any specific style? Are you really still wanting to stick with the big charge lot Archon attack? Charge lot like Immortal Archon? Oh, was it Archons as well, or was it more charge lot Immortal Sentry? I can't quite remember.
Depends what matchup actually, but when it's going to be like a PvZ matchup, usually it's going to be much more Archons than charge lot. But I actually would like to stick with any Twilight opening, so anything regarding the charge or glaze or
yeah,
I could match that actual microwave would be actually fantastic.
All right, so Blink into charge would probably be really good, right? Just like the most typical classic Protoss versus Terran opening that everyone does.
Because at the moment I'm actually opening with fast robo just to have observers all around the map and have more or less vision on basically what I'm up against.
The firstborn shall
Love to actually open with Twilight.
Yeah.
And transition into anything else.
It's not a bad opening, just going robo, getting some observers and stuff, but since we do want to play aggressive, the ability for Blink to just shut down our opponent's pressure is amazing. And we've already then got the Twilight. It's quite easy to go double forge, charge, third base, and yeah, I guess that's going to be our game plan. So that's going to be awesome. All right, so let's go. All right, so we've got all these mechanics questions. Bam, 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 bam. All right, so I'm scrolling right down below all that mechanics information, and we're going, all right, PvT. So the game plan is going to be Blink, charge, 2-2, wave of Protoss bullshit, we can call this. So many Terran players hate that attack. It's so powerful. Always hits them when they're at 1-1, and it's just such a great attack. We love it. So we can call it a timing attack, I guess. All right, we'll call it a timing attack, not a wave of bullshit. But we are hoping our opponents rage at us and how much we A-move with this sort of thing. So we want to go for that. We want to obviously benchmark that attack, see how it goes. But in terms of opening build, what are we going to do? Okay, well, we want to do Blink. Blink opening. I don't have an exact super tight Blink build order. If you want to grab one supply for supply, we can grab one off All Things Protoss. There's going to be heaps there in the archives, since there's, you know, blink openings going back to the start of Legacy of the Void. I can make one up. I would probably give you a 2-gate blink opening personally. But yeah, we would kind of basically be looking to produce 3 Stalkers early, or an Adept and then 2 more Stalkers. Produce Adept, then 2 Stalkers. Obviously, first Adept goes to Scout would be very important. Second Pylon at Natural. Second plus third Gateway to mostly wall off, right? Why do we do that? Just by default, be safe against Hellions. So we're going to do that by default. So in this game, for instance, that pylon you put at the front of your natural, great. Those 2 gateways, great. If you scouted it with Hellions, we could easily just put down another gateway to temporarily wall, or simply hold position 2 Stalkers, right? Now, they can get fancy. They can bounce those Stalkers out of the wall with a Reaper Grenade, but it complicates things, and they need to do some advanced moves to do that. So let's go right back to your opening build order here, and let's check. This looked like a normal opening, but let's make sure you're perfect. This is something we always want to be doing with our own play, and it's even easier for me to do it because I don't have any ego on the line, right, when I'm looking at your play. So the first thing I noticed is we're not doubling workers up on the mineral patches manually. So you do have a few close mineral patches that weren't doubled up at the start. Do you find yourself doing that ever, or do you just not bother?
I don't bother at all.
Okay, so that's like a cool little thing we could work on for sure. It's not massive, but it does make a bit of difference. Doubling up workers can give solid 50 minerals every game, something like that. It's not massive, but it's nice.
So just making sure I've got just 2 workers at each mineral line, right?
Yep, but with a special priority on putting them on the closer mineral patches. So, and that you don't have 3 on the far patches. So this makes the biggest impact when you're a little bit, it's a bit chance-based where the probes end up, right? Each game's different, each mineral line's different. But if you end up with 3 probes on a single mineral patch, they're all waiting behind each other, and they become way less efficient, right?
Okay.
So that's what we want to avoid. This game, that didn't happen. You can see, I don't think there's any moment where we have 3 probes. But I've coached people recently where they're like, oh yeah, I never do it. And I'm like, oh, usually it's fine. And then there's like literally 2 or 3 patches that have 3 workers stacked up on them, and there's empty mineral patches with no one mining them for like 1.5 minutes. And I'm like, oh God, we're losing so much money. Like, we're actually just way behind on the income in the early game because of that. And that's not going to happen very often, but it will happen sometimes. Now, do you know which mineral patches here are the heavy mineral patches? The ones that have more minerals on them?
I think the one's closer to the nexus.
Yep. Right? Generally speaking, yes. Every map's just a little bit different though. So on this map, it's actually the top 3 right patches and then the very far bottom left patch. So that one and bam, bam, bam. So the top 3 patches and then the bottom, top right 3 and then the bottom left. So those are the ones which are most important to be doubled up, because if you end up doubling or tripling up these far away patches, they're going to mine out super quick, and it just lowers your overall number of mineral patches to mine from. So that's another like 0.07% efficiency thing, which we don't really need to worry about. But I'm going to tell you about it anyway, because you know what, Starcraft's a game where at the early game, you don't have that much occupying you. So it's always nice to kind of look for these small improvements. So I figured, why not? Just double up the workers if you can. Make sure there aren't 3 stacked on a patch. Keep an eye on it. It's not a huge thing. If you want to do it though, it'll give you some bonus points. Now let's go back and look at this opening, because your opening was a little bit weird this game. So we've gone for a relatively early scout, right? We went for, I think it was a pylon scout, I'm not sure. But what's our probe doing on this side of the map? He's kind of gone for a weird loot. What's going on? Is he looking for something, or was he just trying to run away?
Yeah, he's just trying to run away.
Oh, okay. Cool. So one thing is, it's really nice if you actually bother checking to make sure there isn't double gas. Doesn't really matter since you're going to come back and check the command center. But definitely you should know that Reaper pops out at 2 minutes. So you always want to leave at 1:50 after they put the command center down. 1:50 at the latest is when that probe wants to get out of there. I think you were just a bit busy with your build order though, right?
I usually just leave my prop in there just to harass the worker that is building the command center.
I think you can do that, but you better send it down to the south, right? Hide it down at the 4th base or something like that. Because if you hide it behind the natural, that's just way too obvious. So I don't know, maybe this works in a lot of your games, but you ran right past the SCV and then just went into the fog there. So that's just hoping he wasn't looking. So, you know, try to at least assume your opponent is paying attention, right? Let's not base our strategies around hoping he's not paying attention. Because you can just hide it down behind this tall grass at the very least, wait until 2 minutes 15 when the Reaper's gone past, and then go in and do harassment if you want to. And that's totally fine. What about your build order behind it? Let's take a look here. Did our first pylon go down on time? This is something a lot of players are just slow on their first pylon, myself included. First pylon was perfect, about 18 seconds. All right. So gateway go down straight away. Yeah, we chrono boost immediately into gateway, very nice. Queue up another probe. Oh, we're missing probe production.
Oh yeah, host it, I know.
If you go for a pylon scout, you cannot afford to get the gas until after you queue up this probe. Otherwise, you lose probe production time. So if you like going pylon scout, get in the habit of always queuing up the 17th probe, then it's a 17 gas. It's not a 16 gas. If you go, otherwise you have to delay your chrono a few seconds, then you can get the gas started and then you don't waste any chrono time. Very small detail, but does make a difference. Now past that, it should be 20 Nexus, 20 core, but I think you go 19 this game. So I'm not sure, maybe that's just an older build order.
I always go 19.
You always go 19?
In my other matchups, whenever I'm actually saturating my main base, the last worker that is being built is going to the natural.
Oh, right, this is 20, right? Because you lost your probe? Oh, no, you haven't lost your probe yet. Yeah, so,
No.
yeah. So we should definitely be going 20 because we can afford it here. And you can see you've got the extra minerals right now as well. You were slightly behind on probe production because you had that slight gap due to the assimilator, but then this probe that just popped out was also slightly delayed by a few seconds. And the Nexus, yeah, is actually going down a few seconds later than it could, even with building those probes, right? So after you put the Nexus down, it should be 20 Nexus, 20 core. And then it should be start probe production and 21 second gas, 22 second pylon. But we actually go for a really fast second pylon here. And then we go for the second gas. So the build order is just slightly off kilter. And since you're going to be going for Twilight, it's actually going to affect you. Because you were just going a defensive robo opening, it didn't matter too much. But it's going to matter more now, okay? So let's write that opening down. Exactly. So we want 14 pylon. And we're also going to go scout. Scout plus harass. We're also going to write, don't hide probe behind natural. Be sneaky. 16 gate plus chrono probes. 17 gas. 20 nexus. 20 core. 21 second gas. 22 second pylon. And this is your most standard Protoss opening you can apply to all matchups. But just try to be exact with that, because even just having 1 or 2 probes early makes a big diff. And what's really cool, right, is if your probe hadn't just chilled it there, your Adept wouldn't have had to waste this extra time killing that Reaper. Could have been your second gateway unit, the Stalker, that could have dealt with it, if you had pulled that Reaper home, right? So if your probe, if we go back a little bit, had waited about 210, 215, depending on the map and stuff, right now it goes in, he's halfway across the map and bam, probe starts zapping his SCV. And the Reaper has to turn around. And this allows your first Adept to chrono straight across the map, shade across. And that's very important. Why is it important? Because we need to scout what he's doing. And the main thing you scout for against a Terran player as a Protoss is there a factory going onto the reactor? If there is, we need to be worried about lots of Widow Mines, or most importantly, lots of Hellions coming out really, really early. So scouting with that, and then if it is a factor on a reactor, we get the hell out of there, because Hellions can kill that Adept very quickly. But it's important we do this straight away, and that's why using the probe to harass is nice, because it allows your first Adept to get over there. Whereas if you chase the Reaper down, like you did in this game, look at the timing that we're end up getting to his base for the scout. So even if we go pretty much straight across, there's 4 Hellions out right now. If this was a gas first expand from the Terran, 3 minutes 30 is when the 3rd and 4th Hellion are coming out. and they could just kill this adept really easily, right? Whereas we could have been here like 40 seconds ago, and we'd be like running around, and we'd be like, oh, factory's building units. Shit, let's shade out of here before those Hellions pop, because even 2 Hellions will kill your adept really easily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
Beautiful. So I'm going to add a little dot point, which is going to be adept, stalker, stalker. That's what our that's what our gateway does. But the second stalker doesn't start until we start blink. Then we start that next stalker. It's very important to start blink straight away, because you're going to be slightly gas starved with this opening. Because you're going adept first, it might not actually be the case. We'll see how it goes.
Do I build a sentry in this opening?
Nope. If you want, you can do a macro blink opening with like a sentry for hallucination scout. But generally speaking, just getting blink stalkers is the standard way to do it, because you're very gas starved. So, and I also don't think we're going to be responding to too much scouting info. Like, I see a lot of pros not get the sentry. It's a recent meta thing, is you see some pro gamers get a sentry with this build. It means their stalkers with blink don't come out as quickly. And is a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit weaker against like really fast drop pressure and that sort of stuff, and Hellions, because they've got the sentry, but it gives them more scouting, more flexibility. Whereas the classic problem we have with a blink opening is we don't have a lot of scouting. It's just basically the probe scouts, the adept scouts, and then it's the blink stalkers go and pressure them after hopefully shutting down any harassment on our side of the map. And that's kind of the flow of a blink opening, okay? So that's our opening. Let's add the next bit, I guess. It's Twilight Council, obviously at 100, right? At 100 gas. Twilight Council. Now that's obviously after Adept and Warp Gate starts. You know, don't go and delay your upgrades and stuff to start your tech structure. And that would normally be about 2 minutes 20, something like that, your Twilight Council. And obviously that's going to go into Blink immediately. And then, so looking at our opening here, let's also look at this timing. So this adept didn't come out particularly fast for you either. And this is something you're going to notice. As you get tighter and tighter with your builds, your cybercore is going to come down a bit earlier, even whilst squeezing that extra probe out. Sorry, we're getting crazy feedback from your mic. Maybe you just need to move the mic slightly further away. I'm not sure.
Okay, like that.
Yeah, it should be good.
Better.
Yeah, that's better. Awesome. So yeah, because your cybercore, I mean, even though it went down right when you had the money here, let's check. A lot of people don't start that adept on time, and starting that adept right on time is huge. So let's just take a look. Let's see how long your delay was. So we freeze it down to regular game speed, 211. You did it pretty much immediately. That was pretty tight. That's awesome. Check that in your games. If your adept's not defending the Reaper properly, if it's not scouting properly, good chance you messed up that cybercore timing, or you messed up starting that adept straight away. It's a little thing that can give the Terran way too much momentum in the game. So yeah, this Robo, basically same thing, except it's a Twilight Council, okay? Might go down a little bit earlier. And preferably, we will already have our probes like rallied down to the natural as this adept pops out, right? Just so that we can start this mining up. So we can see right now, transferring workers, changing rally points. And we're gonna always chrono the second gateway unit as well. Right? But after that, I guess other than that, it's just chronoing probes. So we should have just been chronoing probes other than that, which is fine. We don't need to chrono warp gate at all. Yeah, I don't know when the second chrono into our probes would naturally happen, but you can figure that one out. It would basically be blink, and we want to chrono blink like twice to try and get that out as quickly as possible. The idea is if when they come in with a drop, you can just blink on it, your life's really easy. So that's going to be the goal.
I get a charge after blink, as far as I know.
Yeah, you don't need it straight away though. Your blink stalkers will hang on, because like if you go straight charge, it's done so fast. You're like, cool, I've got 3 charge zealots. It's more important for you to get 1/1 upgrades started first. So to get the 3rd base down, to get double forge, to get up to, you know, and then you start charge and add all your gateways around the same time. Because yeah, charge itself, you might want to rush it if you see some crazy cheese coming your way, but otherwise no need. Awesome. Okay, so the build gets more loose from here. So I'm gonna write a 2nd and 3rd gateway timing Here, your gateways are going down. You've dropped 3 gateways at 4 minutes. So as we get tighter at the build order, we'd probably drop these 2 gateways at 3 minutes 30. Let's say 3:30, roughly there. Which should, you know, the thing is, I think you can be a lot more consistent with your probe production and stuff. So you'd be surprised where just cleaning up your opening a little bit, you're going to have more supply earlier, more stuff. That's why I'm not going off the supply counts in this replay at all for any of these markers, because I think your supply is going to be higher once you get more used to this new build order. So we're going to go 4 minutes, probably about 3 minutes 30 / when we have the minerals, 2nd plus 3rd gateway, walling the front, right? And then we can drop a robo after that as well, because we want to get observers. And we're not going to be too obsessed with that timing. After that, what do we go after the robo? It's 3rd gas, 3rd nexus, double forge, and then we go charge after double forge, right? Now, only start charge and 1/1 at the same time, all at once, so that can all be paired together, and then we can add 6 gateways, so 9 gates total. And you could easily go up to 12 or 13 gateways once you've got 3 bases fully saturated, because you're just making cheap zealots and stalkers, right? And from there, you never go past 3 gas, is the idea with this style, right? So from there, we could take a 4th base, 5th base, never take more gas, just keep pumping Zealot Stalker, right? And then there's the theoretical transition. Add 3 gases and a Templar Archives. Or 2nd Robo plus Robo Bay, right? Depending on if you want Storm or Colossus. Storm's the more natural transition. But I want you to win before that, and I think that suits your style anyway, right?
Thank you, yeah.
You like to get in their face and kill them. So, obviously, this game, let's just talk now about some tactical stuff in this particular replay, ignoring the new build order. We've mapped out a new build order for you, we've written it down. So at this point in this game, you built only 1 Adept and 1 Stalker. So you're a bit vulnerable to any very fast pressure. That's the first thing we're noticing. Second thing is, we shaded our Adept in and got it killed. Never do that. Always try to be really conservative, keep that Adept alive. And it's going to be really nice in future, because you're going to do, like I said, the Probe Scout, hides, comes back in to try and pull the Reaper home. Adept Scouts, checks if there's a factory on the reactor. If it's not, no worries. We're pretty chill. But if there is a factory on the reactor, that means it's Hellions, right? So let's write down that scouting tell and that reaction. So, reactor factory equals Hellions or mass mine, either way. So what do we have? We have a probe in the wall, ready to wall off. And, you know, and you want to check for Hellion drop, right? Just make sure you survive on 2 base without massive probe damage. That's all you need to do. And you also want to hide a probe behind your 3rd, so you can drop a Nexus in the middle of the action. If you, because sometimes you feel a bit contained, and if you just end up with 1,500 minerals and no 3rd Nexus, even if you've kept yourself safe, it's kind of bad. But if you just have a probe hidden behind the 3rd, that's a nice little detail against that. But otherwise, we should be fine. So from here, you're kind of building Immortals. You built an Observer, but your Observer went on a really weird path, so it didn't actually get any info. And then our army is just an Immortal, which unfortunately is rallied across the map. Oh no! And we've only got 2 Stalkers and an Immortal. So what we're seeing here is a lack of structure in that these gateways, I said, were really late, right? But it is 5 minutes in this game. Almost 5 minutes. This is really, really late. And we only have 2 Immortals, 2 Stalkers, and a Sentry. So it's something where we're kind of massing Immortals right now, but it doesn't look like we're appreciating the fact that, hey, you're playing against the Terran. Basically, we want to always, by about 4:30, 4:40, we want to say that's when drops can start hitting us, especially if we've seen his opening. It's a barracks, it's a factory, it's a starport. We knew it was like a 1-1-1 of some sort. And you want to just keep your units in both mineral lines. And if you can be a little bit further towards where you think the drop's going to come, so you can start shooting it down ahead of time. But you normally, by this point, ideally will have 6 gateway units, okay? So let's kind of write this timing down. Let's say 4 minutes 40, drops can start to hit, right? Like marine mine drop, just a mine drop. If they go like a Hellion opening, obviously it can hit earlier than this, but let's just say 4 minutes 40, drops can start to hit. So at that point in the game, we want to be covering both mineral lines, right? So we want 6 gateway units spread across both mineral lines. And basically, if you do that correctly, if you had 3 Stalkers in your main base and 2 Stalkers and an Adept in your natural, you can imagine this would be so much easier to handle, right?
So much easier, obviously.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like, they don't get dropped for a few PvT games, so they just don't have that setup. But that should just be your standard defensive setup. So what's interesting here is we panic against this Widow Mine drop. You said you struggle against Widow Mine drop, and I can see there's trauma here. Because we look at your response here, and you're chasing a speedy medevac while you're... Okay, you did actually send your probes back to mine, but you didn't put them on gas, and you didn't send them all back to mine. And then, yeah... Okay, it was the next run-in, actually, that you end up chasing it. And then your whole army is just running to your natural, to your main. And then you're moving across for what looks like an attack. But this attack doesn't really make any sense. Right? Your army's kind of running around the map. And this is like the classic just moving our whole army around, not using separate control groups, right? So it's like your mechanical inclination to send your whole army to one location is creating a huge problem here, right? So I think just that control group thing, where every game you can start practicing control group 2 and control group 3, right? And try to get used to control grouping those units. I think one of the biggest things we can do, and you said it yourself, is probably, if we want to learn these mechanics, is get rid of the F2 key for a while, since you are normally control grouping your army. Remove F2 for 1 month would be my homework recommendation. Are you game for it or not? Because it's a big change, man. I mean, you can always just fight the urge to use it, but I do think removing it would be the best way to learn quickest, but it kind of... Are you motivated to do that? What are you thinking?
To be honest, I only use it in PvT.
When what?
In PvT. I only use it in PvT against Terran.
Okay. And that's the time where it hurts you the most. That's actually the worst time to use it, right? Because they're dropping everywhere. So yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Let's just get rid of it then. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go get rid of it. Actually, the reason I'm using it because my army is so spread out that it's just hard to box it out individually and make one control group once again. If you know what I mean.
Oh, like after you've already pressed F2 once, you find it, or do you mean because you're in your mineral line?
When I have like all of my units spread out between bases,
yeah,
and when I don't want to use it, I end up using it just to grab all of my units back to my control group.
Right. Yeah, because they're spread out. Yeah. Right. Whereas if we're gonna have them already set up on 2 separate control groups, it'll make your life so much easier, right? Even though technically there might be a time where you also want a few units at a third base, say a Liberator comes in, you don't need those units on a control group. You can just warp in a few Stalkers, right? And just rally them to not be in the lib zone. And we can just have the 2 control groups, use them correctly, and we should be good. Awesome. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to remove F2 for at least 1 month and see how that goes. I think that's going to help you so much, dude. That's going to be awesome. Okay, so 4 minutes 40, we're always going to be covering those 2 mineral lines. And then the idea is our game flow with this build, right? That's what we want to write down here, is like a little bit of an understanding of, hey, what should our game flow look like? So it's probe scout, probe harass, adept harass plus scout, then retreat, check factory. And what are we doing past that point? We're basically just defending. So we're basically saying defend, 4 minutes 40 to 5 minutes 30, defend. Defend any pressure. Move out with Blinkstalker pressure when able. Bonus points if observers show we can do this immediately and pressure right on 5 minutes, right? If you can hit their base 5 minutes with Blink Stalkers, you can often do a lot. You can do some really beautiful stuff. So that's going to be nice. But after that, all we're doing, right, is probing third base. So when we're defending any pressure, we're also securing the third. So while we're defending at 440, we should already have our third base, if not starting during that, and then probing up. So we're going to probe third base, and what are we doing from there? It's literally just adding upgrades and hitting 3 base production. So that means what? 1 upgrades, 2 upgrades. It means really just grinding out a shitload of gateways and then just making non-stop zealots. Hitting 3 base production, massing zealots, and go! And yeah, and this is such a good build because if you do that quite right, often what happens when you get used to this build and you do it nicely, you're like, okay, cool, but like, you know, I am still a little bit worried about my opponent's push, but it's fine. I'm going up. My third mineral line should be saturated by this point in the game, 730. So you're going to be used to having way more probes once we get on top of this and we stop taking as much damage from Widowmine drops. And you're going to be like, all right, my 1-1 and charge are almost done. My gateways are all finishing up. I'm adding pylons. Oh shit, the push is coming. But then the idea will be 1-1 finishes, charge finishes. You warp in 2 rounds of zealots and then you get to attack move into their army and laugh at them, which is my favorite part of PvT with this style. Any push like what he's doing here is the worst possible thing against your style because tanks are good versus Stalkers, Colossus. They need mines against lots of zealots. If they don't have mines, they're not going to do shit. They're not going to do anything. You also don't need a lot of sentries with this style. So maximum probably 3 sentries, but often just 1 or 2 will be fine for Guardian Shield more than anything. Because you're not really building a lot of Immortals or anything. You're going to be very focused on Stalkers, use the Blink Micro, and then Zealots. And let's talk about Blink Micro quickly. Milo, have you used it before? Are you comfortable with Blink? Is it something you've ignored in the past? What do you feel with Blink Stalkers?
I mean, I was playing the Minute Micro challenge a couple of times.
Did it give you Silver League Micro, Gold League?
Micro.
Because even if it says gold, you're probably doing well. Like, it's really harsh with the way it rates your execution.
Yeah, I think it's pretty alright, to be honest. I mean, it's still hard, like selecting individual units, but I mean, I think I could use it.
Yeah. I think it's something where you don't need to do too much with it, right? So when you're first starting with this style, your Blink Stalkers are just going to be to kind of wear them down a little as they push you. I don't think you need to do anything more than that.
I like look forward to actually blink into their main base and do the damage, and they just escape and maybe do damage somewhere else.
Yeah, but even that, very high APM move, right? So you can do that, but you only do it once at most, right? Even if you do good damage, and you do it in between your macro, right? So you do that as everything else is done, right? I just put down my double forge, and I've put down my third, and I've just queued up 6-7 probes across my Nexus and chrono boosted them, dropped into pylon. Okay, I've got 30 seconds, micro the Stalkers, blink in, do damage. Okay, and even if they're not on top of it yet, just get out and leave after 20 seconds in their base, right? Because we know you're gonna get, yep.
So just trying to be active on map, but not overdo it, basically.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it active on the map. I'd call it literally one organized poke. It's like active on the map with the bare minimum of APM, because you want to get used to the build. So like I said, you see what we see here? Your minerals and gas at the end of this game, really common for a lot of Protoss players. They're like, well, I've got my forges starting and me storm. Oh, he's killed me. So it's going to be very tight where you're going to be like, sweet, this is the moment where I start 5 gateways. Okay, my gateways are started. My production's about to pick up. Let's build lots of pylons. Fuck, he's pushing. Warp in zealots. Warp in 1 more zealots. Okay, we barely held. And then you crush it and you're way ahead, right? And we can definitely do things like, hey, if we didn't see a third command center this game from him, imagine we didn't see double engineering bay and third command center. Let's imagine it's 5 minutes in this game, and you see, at this point, a 4th and 5th barracks here. Your observer's in the base. Let's go to 6 minutes, actually, since he doesn't have shit at this point. Let's go 6 minutes. There we go. Okay. 5:45 will do. Instead of this 3rd command center and the double EBIT that's about to go down, you see a 4th and 5th barracks. You know that's a 2 base all in, right? If they have 5 barracks on 2 base, that's like just, he's trying to break you. Is that something you're used to looking for at all, or you don't really think about?
I'm actually just looking for a 3rd base. If I don't see a 3rd base and I don't see additional barracks, I'm actually thinking it's going to be a cheese or anything like a battle cruiser thing.
Yep. But if you did see 5 barracks normal production, but he's only got 1 engineering bay, no 3rd command center, you're basically knowing that push, right? It's just 5 racks on 2 base, right? Lots of bio. So whether it's tanks, mines, doesn't matter. Whether it's liberators or more medevacs, doesn't matter. Whether he has a raven, doesn't matter. It's always the same, right? One size fits all. He's on 45 SCVs at most, and he's massing units and trying to kill you. So how many probes do you think you want to go up to with this style? You're going into 3 gases, just like you did in this replay. You're going to be going 3 gases onto the 3rd. How many probes do you think you should go up to stop a player who's stopping at 40 to 45 SCVs?
I think just about 3 base saturation, but not including the gases.
Okay, so 3 base saturation plus 3 gas. How many probes is that?
That's 16 times 3.
48.
9 probes.
Plus 9. So what's 48 plus 9? That's 57. So that's a 57 probe economy. Okay, let's do the maths on that. 57 probe economy. So I would say that's normally okay if you have a smooth opening. Cool. If you have a really good opening, you shut down his pressure. It's pretty big economy lead. But he's got mules. It's okay. I think that's fine because you're not building a lot of tech, right? If you were going Storm and Colossus and double upgrades, this would be friggin' insane because you're like trying to get way ahead in tech and way ahead in economy. But in this case, you're just going Zealots and Stalkers. I think this is okay. But what if you took some damage to a Widow Mine drop at the start of the game? We've always got to imagine there's scales, right? And we start even in the game, but he's punched us a few times. Hellion Run by got 10 probes. Oh shit, man, he's up here. We're down here now. So we might have to adjust that, right? We know he's going for the 2 base all in. Normally we'd stop at 57 probes, but in this game we're a bit behind. What's the new probe count you think you'd stop at?
Oh, I think I should stop at like 66 or approaching even 70.
No. What if you're behind?
Oh, well,
If you've taken damage early, then you need even less probes, not more, because you're still stopping the same attack, but you're going to have less time to prepare for it because you've taken this damage earlier.
oh, so I was thinking I would actually have to focus back on economy.
But that would get you killed, right? You see, that's the classic trick. Yeah, you can fall into that. You're like, oh, I've got to rebuild the probes even more. But that's the, I mean, you want to focus on the economy immediately to recover the initial losses. But if you end up going even greedier, that's you being doubly as greed because you're already behind. And then you're saying, I'm going to invest even more in economy. That means his army's going to shoot up here. Your army's going to be down here. You're going to get wrecked. You're going to get destroyed. So if you think about it, 57 is normally safe. You're going to need to be a bit safer. So how many probes do you think?
So just about 50, 34.
50, did you say?
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, about 50. I think so. I mean, we could say, yeah, 50, 49, something like that, right? Like we could say, okay, if that's 3 base economy, we could just take 8 workers off that 3rd. I like to do it in 8s because that's half a mineral line, right? So we could be like, oh shit, let's stop at 49, 50 probes. So we can think of that as 8 probes on the 3rd, right? Or 8 probes on the 3rd mineral line. And the thing is, in general, if you're just not that confident in your play, you want to play a little bit safer, you can just do that every game, right? You could just be like, I always stop at 50 probes, get my gateways up, start whooping in zealots, and then I can add more probes from that point if I want to. But this just makes it a little bit easier for me to make sure my gateways, my 1-1 and my charge are ready for any push, right? So there's a few different ways you can do it, but what's cool here is we're starting to think about not just a game plan as I just got to follow the game plan, but we're thinking about adjusting and adapting to the situation, right? And remembering that everything is flexible. And the only point of learning this build is to give ourselves a structure so we can make smarter reactive decisions, right? We don't want to fall into that trap of just following a build without thinking critically about what we're doing. that's it, it's the baseline so we can learn to do smarter shit, right? So we're going to start doing the build probably in a pretty dumb way. You're not going to react to anything when you're just trying to remember the build order, right? You're going to sometimes die to stuff because you're just not thinking. You're trying to remember, ooh, I think I go forges. Yeah, I go forges now, third. And he's like done some crazy all in and he kills you. But it doesn't matter because how are we going to focus our learning? Number one, learn the build order. Get the macro down. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. If we're doing the macro in the right order and we're memorizing and internalizing that build, means we're getting better. The next step will be, okay, cool. Now I'm actually looking at what my opponent's doing and I'm doing these little adjustments. Or I'm saying, ooh, he's doing a 2-base all in. Let's stop at 57 probes. Let's stop at that. Let's go to that point. Make sure we cut there. Generally speaking, what's kind of cool about this build is you're always going to go to 57 probes anyway, right? 3-base economy, and then that's what you go for your big timing attack off of Mass Zealot Stalker. So your actually build is built around crushing a 2-base push, but we've talked about that contingency. We can make it a little bit safer. If we want, we can just get about 8 probes on the 3rd mineral line and then go from there, and that can make our life a lot easier.
Alright, so just for this build, there is no transitioning. So just adding more nexuses,
Yeah.
transferring props, basically just squashing my enemy.
Absolutely. And you can start this as a really simple all-in. Always just warp in 2, 3, 4 rounds of Zealots. However many rounds of Zealots, 2-2 finishes, spread out and attack from 2 or 3 sides and just do a big A move while flying maybe a prism into the main base or something, right? Something like that. Very basic, very simple build order. As you get better, you go, oh, this guy has a wall off with lots of mines behind it and a tank. You know, I'm going to instead take a 4th, maybe make another 10 probes at most, but I'm just going to wait for him to push out and then we'll jump on him when his push comes out on the map. But I'll just keep waiting. Just keep making zealots. But we're going to keep the composition very simple. It's just Zealot Stalker. Keep looking for those big flanking engagements. Zealot Stalker is best when you come from multiple sides. Same thing as playing Zergling Baneling. You are swarming your opponent. It's about coming in from multiple angles. Whenever you're the shorter ranged army, you want to be surrounding your opponent as much as possible, ambushing them. If you catch them without their mines, their tanks, their Liberator's Siege, their army's shit. So yeah, anytime you can engage them out in the middle of the map when they're not expecting it, perfect for you. Awesome, man. So we are out of time now, but I have given you about 4,000 things to work on. Let's try and simplify that very quickly with a little homework list while we finish up. At the very top, it's going to be remove F2 for 1 month. I want you to write your own list of your mechanical change priorities, okay? So I want you to figure out which of these is most important to you and get them down, and which ones you're focusing on. Some you might choose to not work on. Maybe you'll leave your mouse sensitivity super high. Up to you. Just make sure you work on that. You're gonna grind the build order. Write down questions, puzzles, work on reactions once the build is down. So once you've done the build 5-10 times, you're going to start encountering weird things from Terran players where you need to adjust a little bit, study what the Terran's doing, understand it, and write down what you think your exact response should be so you can put it into action. And that should be about it, man.
Thank you very much for your time.
No worries, man. Go back and rewatch the VOD of this, reread the notes tomorrow, do it again a week from now, because we went over so much stuff. There's no way your brain could absorb and hang on to all of that. So go back and review it later. We've got it all written down in your doc. It should be awesome. I did want to say before I let you go as well, dude, thank you for all the Icy Far games. I went and I looked up the ketchup in the cereal one. That was awesome, man. That was the one where you took the guy's base. So it's awesome to coach someone who's submitted so many Icy Far games.
Just to recap, I even won the Liquid Rain book, and I'm halfway through reading it, so I've got to say it's good things that comes from that.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, you've been you said 3 different episodes or something? You've 3 different replays you've had in Icy Far, I think?
3 different episodes.
That's awesome.
I'm actually changing my name every single season, so my replays are actually going full.
I mean, there are, you don't necessarily need to do that. Eon Blue and definitely does pick different people, but yeah, we're going to actually, for everyone on the stream, we're going to need to grab a new helper for Icy Fast. So I'm going to try and open applications for that soon, since Eon Blue is very busy and can't do it in the near future. But for now, we do have a challenge at Stabby McStabstab. We announced yesterday, I think it was, the day before. You're not allowed above 40 workers. So action-packed, get in your opponent's face games. Guys, please send in replays. All right, Milo. Well, thanks so much for submitting replays. Thanks for the coaching, and let me know how it goes. Have a good night, man. Awesome, good little session there with Milo. I did not expect so many mechanical things. Hello, I think I saw you in chat. What are you doing? What's this cheeky smile?
Hey, try this. I ate most of it, but try some.
Oh, is that instant fur?
Yes.
I was like, are you trolling me? You have this like giant smile on your face. And I'm like, is this old soup or something? Like, what the fuck? Like, why you got this big... Smells good. Is this the Fur 24 stuff?
Yeah.
Oh. That's actually good.
Yeah.
What the hell?
It's instant fur, everyone.
This is actually really good instant fur. What the hell? I thought this would taste like shit. Did you add spice?
No, it comes with
The spice? Is the meat came in it?
Oh, no, I put the meat in.
Okay, I was like, this meat seems a bit too good to be coming in an instant packet.
The meat is real.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been saving this so you can try it.
Can we order it online or something?
I don't know. I have to
Or do we have to go to Vietnam again? Get one of your relatives to like post us some crate of it.
It's so good.
Oh my god. Oh, of course. There's always some people who don't know what pho is, and you guys are missing out. Pho is Vietnamese soup consisting of broth, rice, noodles, herbs, and meat. It's really, oh dude, it's this rich, just amazing soup where they cook it all day with like, you know, all the bones and all the weird bits of meat and shit, and it's just amazing, dude. It's great. It's actually the best thing ever, dude. Many different types of it, depending on which region, you know, you are in Vietnam and stuff. We have like some of the best types of it here in Australia, but I think actually probably my favorite is this, it's a chain. It was a place that was so famous it became a chain in Vietnam, Pho 24, and basically they're everywhere. And I remember we were really annoyed because we wanted to go again, and then they had one in the airport of one of the cities we were in, flying to another city, and we were so happy. So yeah, they actually sell these packets of instant pho, and we were like, oh, that'll suck. It'd be pretty bad, because it normally is, right? You can't really replicate it, but they actually tasted pretty good. I don't think it was that cheap, but yeah, this place is crazy. It's like in Vietnam, and they have like Australian beef in their soup and stuff, which is pretty damn legit for Southeast Asia. Like, what? That seems kind of intense.